All right, what we're going to be talking about today is the role of leadership in organizational development. Now, I pity you because, including myself, you are leading in a very difficult times in life, where you have to rethink the whole leadership. So if you're going to be playing a role as a leader, especially changing an organization and transforming it, having done that before, I told you the two important, first was to build Excel, second experience was to merge Sasol Oil and Excel, and then we later on had a big ambitious goal to do a measure between Engine and Sasol Oil. Those who are young enough will remember Uhambo initiative that we had. And then it didn't work. We would come back here to redevelop the whole Sasol Oil. So I'll be sharing those stories here. But you're facing big, big challenges. First of all, climate change is a big issue. You need to be leading during this very big transition. Who's from ESCO? Yeah, there you are. We've got an energy crisis right now. But more importantly, we're moving from high carbon economy to low carbon economy. This whole energy transition is a big issue. ESG is a big issue. Just again, to give you an example, when I was at Sasol, I was part of the top leadership of Sasol. We used to go to an AGM, and AGM used to take about an hour because all we did was just the formalities, appoint the auditor, adopted the financial statements. Within an hour, we finish. We go into this AGM meeting. Wow, in the first place, it's packed more than this place, which is very unusual because normally shareholders don't bother us because, at that time we used to channel profits, profits liberates, if you want to liberate it from the shareholders, just give them profit, they'll leave you alone. And we got into this meeting, it's packed. And then all of a sudden, we think the meeting's going to take hours. Like a mass meeting, and this was an environmental organization. They nailed us about pollution in Secunda, about the air quality, about our contribution to the CO2 emissions. It took 4 hours. ESG. And you know how they entered into that AGM? If you don't know, you just have to buy one share. That qualifies you to be a shareholder. So that company is called Just Share. You just bought one share, and it filled up that place with so many people. So you're going to believe, and it was a shock to us in the system to say, how do you ensure business and climate goals converge? Because you have to make money, and at the same time, you have to look after the whole environment, particularly the climate change. And the whole organization called Sasol is anchored on coal. Coal is a fundamental mainstay of Sasol. Because what we do, we take coal right from, this is the best beneficiation process ever. Because we take a low coal product like coal, you clean it up, you put it in a washing machine called Secunda plant, and then it comes out there. It's got fuel, it's got chemicals, it's got all sorts of products, it's got wax, it's amazing. And we've got a technology which is, everybody in the world wanted it until coal was declared a demon. Even China wanted it. In fact, they are still using it, by the way. So we were shocked. So that's a shock you're going to have now. How do you run an organization, develop an organization in an extremely volatile world in terms of the environmentalist and the environmental change and the climate change? You get that? That's the first complexity that you're faced with. The second complexity is that the business changes so quickly. How do you ensure your people and your company are learning to stay ahead of the curve? Well, I don't want to tell you my age, but I lived long enough to be during the time when the telephone was, you use this one and you say, hello, and you ask for a number. I lived long enough to see a fax machine. I used to stand in front of a fax machine and wait for it. But where is it now? Say it's gone. Say after me when I say it's gone. Wait until I've lived long enough to know that on Friday, like today, And yesterday, I would have gone to my local video shop and borrowed a video and then be able to play. And on Monday morning, I would send it back. Where is it now? It's gone. Yeah. I've lived long enough to know that I used to have a cassette player. Where is it now? It's gone. I've lived long enough that I used to have LP records, the big ones. Where are they now? Are they still around? Are the DJ now? The DJ's boo plays it. Okay. Yeah, I've lived long enough to know so many things. I've lived long enough to know that I once upon a time had a checkbook. Where is it now? The change that is happening is getting faster and faster. I lived long enough to know that I used to have a Nokia that was big as this, and it was a sign of a status symbol. Where is it now? And where has it gone to? Into the dustbin of history. Now, I'm telling you right now, if you're not changing your organization at a fast pace, faster than change, it will be obsolete. It will go into the dustbin of change. And that is where you are leading right now. Extremely difficult times. Now, we're grappling here at the university with, what is it, GT chapter or chapter GT? ChatGPT. I had a meeting with them here. I says, how are you going to now assess the students? Because the student, you just give him a topic, write something about this, then it will write the assignment, and everyone gets an A, yeah? We're grappling with it right now. It's just coming up about a month or two ago. We have to think about how we assess you now. Because we cannot ask you define those low-order questions, explain low-order questions, list. We can't give you those low-order questions. We have to give you high-order questions, which the computer may still, artificial intelligence still have to figure it out. So this world is unbelievable, and you've got to manage in that and lead in that time and change your organization in this world as if it's not over. The geopolitical situation, global and social politics risk have never been so high. How best to use your voice as a business leader and a position to tackle social issues. Those that are energy know that. Energy is geopolitics, huh? I mean, I just give this example. I gave it to the people in energy. This morning I was addressing the Masters in Energy students. Before the war, Ukraine-Russia war, coal was already labeled a demon that must be real go in hell. And then gas, we were still arguing about it, that listen, gas has got 50% less CO2 emissions, therefore we should keep it as a bridge to transition. But before the war, there was already a move says, throw away gas also. Bang, the war starts. Who's importing all our coal? Europe. The very same people who were telling us that we should never, never even touch. Who's looking for gas? Europe. The very same people that were actually wanting to get that. So that's geopolitics. So it's energy security becomes a geopolitical era. Now, how do you actually operate in that environment? In our country today, corruption is at its peak. Incompetence is at its peak in terms of government. Regulatory framework and policies are in shambles. How do you operate? That's where you need to be running your business, or you're running a government department, you're running a state-owned enterprise, or you're running your health sector in that kind. But even more, the pandemic has shifted all our ways of working. You can now work from anywhere. That's why now they put the player on your screen, you know? So that when you're at the beach, you know, and you're working, you're attending a Teams meeting, you can put the player and nobody can see that you are really at the beach. Are you with me? How can we provide support and flexibility to employees while ensuring high performance? And it's actually quite complicated now. I mean, yesterday I was in a Teams meeting, and how do you really manage your family when it comes in? And this was a very classical situation. And the lady was on the screen, and they were speaking with people from Turkey, and we were having this conversation. And then the 3 or 4 year old boy, was roaming around, wanting to have mommy, And she was, and the boy was insisting, he wanted to come. And I said to her, just listen, let's manage this one very well. Just leave the boy, let him come, put him on the screen. And I greeted the boy. I said, how are you, boy? And the Siam said, hello. I said, how old are you? I am 3. I said, I love you, my boy. And he said, I love you too. I said, bye-bye. I said, bye-bye. And then the boy went. Never disturbed us again. Are you with me? Got a little bit of attention, a little bit of recognition. The meeting went smooth. This is how do you manage in this kinds of environment? So what I'm saying to you, you're busy with organizational development in an extremely complex environment. And you need to manage this. But I know you can do it, huh? You're smart, man. You're intelligent. You've got everything what it takes. By the end of this course, when you finish it, you'll be able to run through all this. And that's why we're here. All right, let's move on. Leadership are central in any transformation of an organization. Say leadership matters. Tell your neighbor, it really matters. Leadership breaks or make anything. Starts with the family. It makes or breaks a family. Telling you. Leadership makes or breaks an organization. Leadership makes or breaks a business. Leadership makes or breaks countries. Leadership makes or breaks multinational, global organizations. Leadership has broken ESCOM. Yeah. Nothing else. Forget about the technical stuff. Leadership has broken our continent. Our continent is not poor, but it's got poor leadership. Are you with me? Yeah. But we're going to change the trajectory, okay? Yes. You are here because we want to change the trajectory. So, customers must develop a very systematic and well-supported approach to activate leaders to ensure successful organizational development. That's a key point that you need to embrace in you. And that's your responsibility. You see, I've been here for 2 years. At the end of my career in corporate life, and then I said, look, what am I going to do? And I said, I play a little bit of golf, I play with my grandchildren, but I thought to myself, listen, I've got to go back and plow back and give back. It's because I want to share my experience. When I have a systematic approach, when you're starting to do any transformation or organizational development, focus on leaders, energize them, making sure they've got a purpose. If there's anything I can recommend from you is a whole idea of purpose-driven life. Are you with me? A lot of people have written about that. Purpose-driven life. Once you've got a sense of purpose, what is the purpose? You first, your own purpose, and what's the purpose of your organization? And once you've developed that and you've crafted that and you understand it, it energizes people. They wake up in the morning with a song in their heart because they know they're going to make a difference, they're going to make an impact, and it's not only about the paycheck. And that's very important. And then you need to align senior leaders and help them understand why they need to be part of this change. If you're going to be changing an organization, I don't know what organization you're changing. When we were changing the whole Sasol oil between Excel and Sasol oil, you must understand the two cultures was what we needed to change. Excel was a young entrepreneurial, black-owned company, very agile, very nimble. We moved very, very fast. In 7 years, we built we were just rolling out service stations. Sasol Oil was a bureaucratic, still elements at that time, not now, maybe you've changed, you guys, but at that time when we entered there, still elements of the kind of bureaucratic government entity, very strong Afrikaans background. To get these two meeting was quite a challenge. But we had to do this, define the why, and then align the leadership. We had to have a number of workshops where we looked at each and every prejudice that we have, the differences of opinion, argue until we blew in our face, spend immense amount of time to align leadership. I promise you, if you don't invest in that, you're not going to succeed. If you're leading any change now, whatever change you're leading, in my experience, even here at West Business School, I'm in that process of aligning the leadership to making sure that we pivot the school from the old school that was 50 years old into the school that is in the digital world, in the school that is fast changing and become a global player in the world. The third one, you have to support leaders in activating key behaviors and support them in their role of change. Don't assume that everybody knows how to lead. Don't. Right now here at WITS, we've seen that our senior managers, that's why you're complaining with lots of, I've had your complaints about all the administration issues. We're now focusing on running a program, leading and managing for our senior managers. So you've taken a step by coming here because you now have invested in your own development. Do the same with your line. I'm not punting words, but we've got executive education. You can't take somebody who's been a technical guy and is used to run alone, he's an engineer, he's been running projects, and you say he must lead people. It's very easy to lead a machine because the machine, you just tell it to do, you put an SOP, and that's it. The machine, you press this side and it gives you what you want. A human being, you press this side, three things comes out. And the worst is the emotions, which you didn't know. Wow, what have I done now? Are you with me? It's very important to support your leader. So in any change process or organizational development, you need to make sure you support them and you work with them. All right. You can stop me at any time when you want to talk, and then we can talk, ask questions of clarity. Now this one, you know, I'm sure you've had the principle of hands, heart, and head. But I want to speak about this because in a change process, unless you actually understand that people bring these three aspects in their lives. My first job was actually in the factory and at laminate industry in Al Road. How many of you come to that part of the world? Eguruleng. Al Road. And when I came out, I was a science student, so I was doing laboratory work, and I was process and quality control. So I would run between the laboratory this side and go to the manufacturing plant, and my job was to make sure that the quality of the products at the end of the manufacturing line is spot on, and we reduce the scrap rate and making sure that we produce the best that we can. So I had authority to stop the production process going forward. And that's what I noticed when I was in the factory, is that people just generally, and I also got into that, they were just bringing their hands. Their hands, that's all, nothing. And you need to understand that people can just only bring their hands. So they come in, they clock, and I also came in and clocked, and knock-off time was 4 o'clock because you had to catch a bus, and I used to get into the bus. It was nice to be in the bus, especially in the morning. You get in the bus when you're in the bus there, and then at the certain section of Skosana section, there will be a lady that will come in and you'll start the chorus. But by 3:30, everybody is packed, they want to go. And Managers, which at that time predominantly were white people, stayed. And I used to stay, try to do my assignments and do my experiment because they last long until 8 p.m. Until one of the old people called me, Bob Zwane. Up and down. Tizukjele thina kudala sikhona la eGoli. Kusegoli la. Umsebenzi webelunga upheli. Uphela amandla endoda. Translation. Work doesn't come to an end. It's you gonna be finished. And I started doing, and I listened to this. I thought, I'm a young man, so you listen to old people. But I realized, now all of a sudden, I always just started bringing my hands now, no more brains behind, which I was using. And then all of a sudden, I also became saying, and I realized very quickly, I said, no, I got to leave this place because my work ethic is going to be destroyed. And I left very quickly. That was one of my best decisions. But the point is, how do you convert people from bringing only their hands, bring their brains, and then bring their heart? That's really the challenge of leadership. How do you get people not just to come and clock? And then once they are in, if they're working in an office, then they just open Netflix and just check Netflix. How do you get them? That's a challenge you need. That is why we're talking about generative leadership. And a leadership that will help people to transcend from the job to work. Now I want to repeat, transcend from a job to work. A job becomes repetitive, doesn't really, you just do it because of a paycheck. But if you take work, move it to work, that is when you link somebody's potential because you say you have to work out your potential and let work releases their potential so that they can become the best version of themselves. That is what it is. Okay, let's move on. Let's just very quickly now look at what the head does. In your case, not in a factory now, the head, you must reinvent the business. You have to reinvent your business all the time. And you need to think, you need to imagine. Let me just go back a little bit here. Head, you reimagine the business. Heart, you inspire people. That's the part that many people fail. It's easy. And then hands, that's when you just push people. But even here, you need to think about how do you build teams. Are you with me? Reinventing the business with your head. Get people to think. Think. And reimagine. And rethink whatever business you're doing now, just reimagine it. Just assume the worst. And say, if in these scenarios, how many of you do scenario planning in your workplace? If in this scenario, what? Think. And then think also, how do you serve people, planet, and society, and shareholders? Don't think only for shareholders, but think for stakeholders. And in reinventing is to think about the vision, think about products, services. Here, it's very important. If you just stick to your products like Nokia or Kodak, how many of you remember the case study of Kodak? The Kodak executives never thought that the Kodak cameras are going to be obliterated because they are products. Markets change very quickly. Services, let me just tell you, when we entered the oil industry, products were already there. Petrol was petrol. Are you with me? Diesel. Are you with me? I'll just give you even the secrets of the oil industry, but they're in the public domain. If you're filling up here in Gauteng, you're filling up a Sasol service station. Yes, petrol, okay? Or diesel. Are you with me? the different companies, and I'm speaking about them now, and because they're my colleagues, they buy from, they used to buy from Sasol, but they'll brand it Shell, brand it BP, and brand it all that. But, so how could we have competed as a new player with markets? Nothing. So what we did, we focused on service, because service you can differentiate. When we started, we were the first one at that moment to have you being served by 4 petrol attendants at the same time. I think the first 20 service stations, it actually was unbelievable. Because when you come in, somebody greets you and calls you, and somebody's looking at your tire, someone's opening up your bonnet, and is checking your oil, somebody's greeting you, somebody's filling up, another one is asking you, can I order something for you at the shop? Do you need cigarette, milk? And there's a good muffins. And that was a wow effect. All the service level surveys that were done we came up tops. And obviously milk that. We told the whole world about that. So what are you going to do to reinvent this? What vision do you have that is bold but balanced with reality? But don't reinvent in a vacuum. The world is full of competitors. Prioritize. You can't do everything. There are things you must say no to. What I like, once you've prioritized and you've got your vision, you've got your mission, in my case, once I'm clear with my vision, which many times I would be, and that's why I actually focus on energy, because that's me, that's just my style. I never was able to move it. But once I'm clear, this is my vision, then I know how to prioritize my time. So once you're a CEO, you receive umpteen invitations to go to different functions, different venues, VVIP, events, and if you don't have a way of prioritizing, you will be running around into all these places. So it's quickly to say no. You have to say no. You have to say no. You have to say no many times once you prioritize. It gives you an ability to say no and focus on those things that are important. Obviously, transparency is there, and some of the stuff I'm not going to get into detail. Now, that was the head. The heart, the most important thing, I'm not going to go through all this slide. Invest in relationships with people and their families. The rest, invest in relationships with your employees. Just spend time to have one-on-one. Let me give you a tip that I always do. Every time there's a new employee here at Verts or everywhere where I would call them after they've gone through the induction of the HR, I'll say, come and have about 30 to 45 minutes in my office. One-on-one. And I'll just start saying, this is not an interview, so tell me where first you were born. And then walk me through your life. And a person will tell me, I was born in Kofimbaba. Or I know Kofimbaba. And I've built a service station there. So where exactly in Kofimbaba? Yeah? There's no part of this world that I've never been. Yeah? Where part? And all of a sudden, person realized, oh, okay, And then from there, walk me through. No, I went to this school. This school, then you know which school. Is it the Model C school, or is it a rural school, or is it a farm school, or is it a boarding school? You walk with a person, you understand. How did you grew up? Geez, I grew up, my mom left me when I was young, and my dad. Then you start to understand what influenced this person. And you start to understand the trauma the person has. You start to understand, I lost, I actually had an accident when I was young, and my wife always tells me that, she grew up in rural areas. And then when she was about 4 years old, she was following a donkey, and then she held the tail of a donkey, and the donkey kicked her, boom, and she went literally dead for some few minutes or so. So those kinds of very traumatic experience. And I'm giving you. And then then you come closer. Where have you worked? Different bosses the person has worked. Then this person relaxes, tells you, hey, I had a horrible boss. And she says, tell me more this horrible boss. And this horrible boss was like mine that I used to have, he was a Shaq supporter, I was in KZN, If Shaq were beaten on that wicket, here Monday morning we're in trouble. Because he's moody, he screams, he shouts. So we knew when Shaq has lost. In fact, we ended up all supporting Shaq. So you start to know what type of bosses a person has gone through. Invest in that. And then when I understand in a person, the next time I relate with that person, we have a conversation, common, and somewhere in their life, there will be some kind of shared experience. Are you with me? And build on those shared experiences. And then when you meet them even in the passage, and as a leader, you stand back and, for instance, a shared experience. I've got a child who's, I'd never use the word disabled. She's differently abled, okay? And she's living with disability. And then I met one of the ladies here. She's got a similar child, all right? But I know now, so we've got a common conversation. When I meet her, I said, how's your child? How's she doing, at school and all that. And then I share, because mine is grown up now. She's still going through very difficult times. I said, no, it's fine. If you actually have a special child, it means God trusted you because you're a special parent. Just by saying that, it helps them. Then all of a sudden, you've got the kind of common shared experience that you can talk about. And that's very, very important. So there's one thing I can emphasize, just invest in their relationship. There's a guy, for instance, that I'm just telling stories here so that you can get, because these principles without stories, they don't help you. I was grooming this young man. I won't mention his name because he's a big cheese now. It's us all. He's a big cheese now. It's us all. When we were sitting there at that time, first Santin, and then we moved, first Rosebank, and then we moved to Santin, in that big office there in Santin that looks like a real ship. I was involved in developing that project. And every time we're looking for talent, particularly black talent, they'll say, no, these guys have not gone through operations. They were not in Secunda, Everyone in GC I was in Secunda. Either was in a mine or was in the chemicals, or I was in the FT or gas or outside. And none of the black talent had that experience. And I knew that 20 years from now, this young man is going to be in the top leadership. So he needed to stay in Secunda. And they were all running away from Secunda because abantu baseGoli. Secunda, Friday, there's no gig. Lovers were corner. It's boring. Saturday, they don't have any. So they don't want to stay. They want to come back here, Joburg. But short-circuiting their engineering capabilities and the experience, because you can only gain it when you're in that plant. Are you with me? So what I did, I invested in him, telling him, stay. But I realized, no, he's going to go. Then I invested in my relationship, invited him with his wife, and I spoke to his wife. I said, listen to me. You keep him in Secunda there. And the moment he wants to go, you come and tell me. And his wife believed me. Thank God he did. He kept him in Secunda. When we needed a promotion for a very senior person in operations, he has spent good 20 years. He knows that plant backwards. Now he's a big cheese. There's two of them, so you know which one. The point is that I started working on his wife. Are you with me? That's what I mean when you say invest in a relationship. The rest, you must listen, you must make sure they've got a purpose. BCG did a study. 27% only of the leaders that actually invest in the hearts of people Let me just say one thing. If ever I've taught you anything today, invest in relationships and win the hearts and minds of your people. They will be loyal to you. That's the biggest problem we have with ESCOM. ESCOM now don't need a turnaround technical CEO. They don't need a person who's in all that. They need a person who's understands the psychological turning around of people, motivating them. They should get somebody who's going to walk into this power station and sit down and adam roho na mapapa na nyama with those people, limhodu, you know, and really be there on the ground and speak and understand them, because they are the one who knows how those machines work. I mean, when I work in a factory, again, I'm just going to tell a story so that one of the lessons I learned very quickly, that you have to understand these people. The operators, they really run a machine there at Laminate Industries. And then the big bosses will come and scream at them. And they say, you know, every machine has got a little bit of a corner somewhere, you know. And these guys will put you know the match? Sticks come matches. And then they'll say, maintenance, engineers, please come. Because they were instructed never to touch the machine when it is out of order. Worst mistake. They said, what's a malamle? For 2 hours, all the engineers with the white dust coats and come and figure out. Can't figure out. After 2.5 hours, and he says, Lila says, shoot la can we help you? No, you must not. Wait, figure. Okay. And then finally, they'll come in here, and then one of them will just walk in and says, look, can I help, please? You know, can I help? I know this machine. And then I says, and then they'll say, okay, help. And then this was my style. The machine starts again. And it becomes a genius. What am I saying? They will sabotage you. That's what's happening there. They will sabotage you. And that because you haven't invested in getting their hearts. So if you're going to change any organization, we say the topic is the role of you as a leader in organizational development. Focus on the hearts of people. Inspire them. Enrich their human experience. Ask them, what is it that they want to achieve in their personal life? What is their dream? In those one-on-one meetings, I ask them, what is your dream? Person will tell you, my dream is to educate my kids. My dream is to go overseas. My dream is to get an MBA. My dream is to go. Whatever dream it is. Some of them are so simple dream, you can meet them immediately. You know? And then when somebody tells you his personal dream, and then he says, how can I help you to meet your personal dream? I mean, some of them are so simple. You can just do it. You know, some of them says, I want to go to Wits Business School. And then you go to HR and says, listen, this is aligned, boom, approved, done. Just that, bang. Person trust you, will die for you. Are you with me? And behind your back, he will do all the work, or she will do the work. And you never have to motivate them again, because they're self-motivated, intrinsically motivated. If I speak about this subject, I'll speak the whole day. So let's move on. Hands, very important. Hands. Hands, it's really what you need to really get the hands is people to execute. They must execute. You see, the biggest problem we have in our nation now is we've got plans. We had RDP plan. And then before we could even finish it, we started with the national development plan. Before we could even finish, we had and then before we finished the economic growth plan. I mean, nobody's executing. Are you with me? Sorry, I'm not a state enterprise. Then everybody's acting there. It's Hollywood, you know? Acting CFO, acting CEO, acting chief operating officer. And he's acting. No, nobody's executing. Everybody's acting. You can't execute. Right now we've got delivery service protests. It's like our country is going on a spiral now. Execute. And then innovate. And then you can only execute if you've got teams. So if you've worked in the art, that's why we're putting you in syndicates, by the way. And I know you're going to be frustrated in syndicates. The reason why, MBA tests 3 things. One, it tests you whether you're smart, which we know you now, so you got your GMAT. And secondly, it tests you whether you can have 7 balls in the air. That's why we give you so much work, assignment, everything. We just do all that so that we can see whether you can keep 7 balls in the air. The third one is teamwork that we want to test. That's why we put you in it with people you don't know, you don't like, and some of them are lazy, some of them are cruising. So how do you work as a team? That's why at the end we will give you not only the awards, but we'll also have a team award. We want to see whether you can operate in a team. Finally, which is the last part, we want you to do your research report. We want to see whether you can finish on your own. Please let me tell you, in my MBA class when I was doing that, 50% of the people didn't finish their research project. Because at that point in time, you're working alone. And I'm repeating this every MBA student. When I was running Sasol Oil and running the energy business, I recruited a lot of MBA students. And when I see your MBA CV, say, it reads MBA, that's it, coursework completed, in brackets, projects, research project not finished. Angihlala lapho kulo CV. Why you didn't finish? You know what it tells me? Is that you're not a finisher. And if you're not a finisher, it means you're not going to be able to deliver projects which will give you a loan. But more importantly, you're a con man now. You didn't get the MBA in the first place. So why are you writing it here on your CV? So your integrity is at stake now. Yeah? So don't, and I'm telling you, and that CV, I just put it aside because it tells me your integrity is at stake. Secondly, you're not a finisher. Are you with me? So please, I don't want you to be in that category, okay? Promise me you're going to finish? Yeah, let me clap hands for you. All right, I can speak a lot about hands, very important stuff there. Let's move on very quickly now, just summarizing and finishing. You can get these slides if you need them. But in the head, we said we focus on vision, we focus on transparency, prioritizing. But in the head, creativity is what I want to do. You need to drive people to be very creative. And then foster creativity. Let people create things. And have sessions like brainstorming, in ideation situation, doing sprints, you're doing agile, fail fast. Make sure that you get all those kinds of ways of doing things so that you continuously create. Are you with me? In your head, in your heart, this is great. The most important people love in the heart side is listening to them. You see, When a young person, when I use young, it's relative to my age, so he's prepared a presentation, and he comes to you, he spent the whole weekend, and he makes this presentation. He's nervous. He's a nervous wreck already. And he's presenting to you, and you are clearly and demonstrably not listening. Busy on your laptop, looking the other way, showing your face that you're bored. That's an aggressive form of disrespect. And people pick it up. Are you with me? Learn to listen and show you listen. Take it, everything else, take a paper and say, notepad says, I'm listening to you. And I'm making notes and ask questions. It's a form of affirmation. Even if the Buddha, even if it's going off the mark, you find a way of saying, can I just play back what you've just said? And then he said, I think you haven't got this one. Can you just, listening is very important because it affirms people. Recognize people, make sure they've got a purpose, and celebrate success. And celebrate doesn't mean you've got to do lavish things, but recognize people. Everyone wants to do a pat on the shoulder. All of us are little boys inside or little girls inside, I've got my grandchildren now, they come back from school. They want to show me what they've done at school. And I have to put time aside and say, listen, and listen. Tell me stories, but anyway, just listen. So, if you can do that, that will be great. It will help you move the organization forward. Because you also, when you're moving an organization, you're also instilling culture. Are you with me? You're instilling culture. Hans has spoken a lot about that. But the most important thing about Hans is role modeling. When you're a leader, everybody's looking at you, what you're wearing, when you're smiling, everything. If you arrive late, everybody's going to arrive late at the meeting. If you say the meeting starts on time, and you do start on time. I've got an expression here which everybody at Vets Business School knows now. And when we start a meeting, even if there's 2 people there in the meeting, it's as bambe as corn. As bambe as corn. So the other people, when they come in, they're already late. Are you with me? So this MBA class will start in time, okay? All the time. Because there's a culture that we have. Role modeling is very important. Anyway, the most important one also is resilience. Now listen and tell you, when you're going through change, you're going to be facing major challenges. When we're building Excel, one of the major challenges that we faced is that we'd built it and it was really big. And then all of a sudden, one of the customers that was big, and for a small company like ours, to be taken out by a big customer who had given him so much credit, and the credit limits kept on extending the credit limit, and then from there, he disappeared. We were at the brink of bankruptcy. And by that time, the whole world knew where we were. And you must understand, we just came just before the Pepsi. How many of you remember Pepsi? Was here and it had collapsed, Pepsi. And the news of Pepsi collapsing was so big that some of you may remember there was a lady called Wongilo Sokulu, who was a TV presenter in Zulu. And he said this, sorry, my friend, you'll catch this expression. And I remember sitting on TV just after we started Excel, and bang, breaking news. In company nkulu yabantu abamnyama. Big black company is gone bankrupt. Why show this is atiwile kwabanda matumbu. I thought, oh, the next thing they say, Excel, and Maurice's face is there, you know. So we're at the brink of bankruptcy. I could have collapsed by that time. But you know, I stepped literally, didn't focus on my role as a CEO, or focus on debt collection. I led from a front. And I tried to chase this guy only to find out he's registered everything in a trust. So we didn't do proper due diligence. We realized we were in deep trouble. And then I started collecting money from everyone who owns us money. I collected it myself. I would go to a big distributor, that is owning a depot that is owning, say, about 2 million rand. And I found a way that it works, you know, don't do this. It was a little bit slightly, not illegal, but it was threatening. You know the story. Fortunately, I had a big white guy, man, who was a big rugby player. So I employed this guy. He was our sales rep, and I said, do you come with me now? We're going to collect money. Yes, I see. And we'll go into the office of this big company, distribution company. And then by the time I've got all the invoices, I knew credit control like you never, I landed so quick. Invoice statements, 45 days, and queries and disputes, everything. It's leading from a front. I'll come into the office, I've got the stack of this. And then Robert is with me. And then the customer will say, take a seat. Robert, do you want to sit down? Robert says, no, I'm standing here. He's taller than me. And I'll sit down. Robert says nothing. He's tough. And he's wearing the t-shirt at that time. That shows him here. And then we'll argue with this lady. No, this invoice is wrong. Okay, we dispute. Let's put this invoice down. Oh, the statement is wrong. Okay, put the statement down. This one is correct. This one is correct. This one is correct. Okay, by the time we finish that process, 2 hours later, okay, let's see these ones are under dispute. Okay, they are 500,000. Okay, these ones which are correct are you sure they're correct? They're all correct. Yeah, no, they're fine. Governor? Yeah, no, they're correct, right? And then from there, I said, okay, now, I'm not leaving this office unless you pay me 1,500. Robert is coming closer. And then that was a checkbook time. But my bank account, if I write you 1,500 check, it will bounce. I said, how much will it do? He said, I'm good negotiate, man. 1,200, it will not bounce. I said, give me 1,200. Write the check. He'll give me one. Put my down. Robert, let's go. At least I've got 1.2 million rand. 1.2 million rand to go deposit straight into the bank account in order to pay salaries at the end of the month. Are you with me? You have to be resilient. If I didn't become resilient at that time, you would have read in newspapers that Excel has collapsed. Must also give glory to God, because to be resilient like that, you need a lot of sweat, hard work, and a lot of prayer. So, thank you very much. Happy to take questions. Very good question. Even before I left Sasol, we started the whole process of transition. Very, very clear. There's a number of pathways Sasol is exploring to, so I'm still close to Sasol, the people. First of all, you've got to keep the goose that lays the egg. Just don't do something stupid that you're going to just tomorrow morning shut down the plant, because you need money to generate it to be able to do things. One route that Sasol is very, very aggressively moved into now is chemicals. So that moves it into the chemicals. The second one, gas, which is 50% lower than CO2, is still on the cards. Sasol is very aggressively looking at gas, particularly natural gas. And the third one is Sasol is doing a lot of deals in the area of hydrogen in particular. I mean, the agenda of hydrogen, I mean, I know Priscilla very well. She is driving that big time, because if you can, over a period of the next 15 to 20 years, move Sasol into hydrogen, that's why there's big projects that are going on. But it's also Sasol is repurposing its plants to acquire electricity from solar, from wind. It has issued a lot of RFPs during the time, I don't know whether they've been concluded now, to really get sourcing the energy source using the renewable energy. So the whole journey, Sasol is committed to it. To set the target, net zero target, and the roadmap is placed. When I was still there, we appointed a chief sustainability officer to set up the whole sustainability department, which works out the whole plan. And I think they're on track to do that. It's a massive change. The older folks who are used to the Secunda plant and who love it and are very passionate about it are struggling to do this change. But there's a lot of new leadership that has come in, also moving into the service stations. I know that Priscilla's employed a guy from outside to come and actually repurpose our service stations there to get battery storage, to make sure that when you come in, the EV comes in. So there's a tremendous amount of effort to move that direction. And I think there's a commitment on the leadership. In fact, there's no option. There's no option. You've got to move down that road. But we must move with caution so that we do not leave people behind, but we do not kill the goose that lays the egg. We must be extremely careful about being pushed by NGOs which are funded not from this country, which are driven by equipment suppliers. And also very important in this journey, you must be equipment agnostic. You must understand the problem and deal with it. But if you just get an equipment supplier driving you, geez, you could be in trouble. All right, any other question? One or two, then we close. It's a balancing act. There are places where we can leapfrog and go straight into green energy, where we do not have legacy projects or legacy technology. For instance, if I were to go into the cell phones, where did cell phones move very fast? It was here, because we didn't have legacy of the cables and the phones. We just moved very, very quickly. So there are places where we can leapfrog, and we need to identify those and do it. But there are areas where we've got natural gas underground. And for anybody to come and say we must sterilize that natural gas, I'm totally against that one. Because the whole world, I mean, I was in charge of Qatar, joint venture between Sasol and Qatar Petroleum, Oryx, which used the natural gas of Qatar to become a superpower where it is. Qatar 8 years ago was a desert. People were in camels. 8 years later, they used their gas. They are now a superpower. They hold. 3 months ago, they were hosting a World Cup. You walk into Qatar, it smells money. I've been there many times. Are you with me? But they've used their natural gas to leapfrog their development. We need to be very, 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 very determined when it comes to that. The gas in Mozambique, we must dig it out of the ground there and make sure that it develops the whole of the Mozambican economy. The gas in Tanzania, we must dig it out and making sure that it works. The gas that we have in Mossel Bay, we must dig it out and making sure that it develops the whole of the Eastern Cape, that poverty there. We must do those things.